In the land of plenty, in a retirement community known for security and good neighbors, terror mysteriously strikes. A vicious killer is on the loose, targeting the least likely victims.
I've never experienced anything like this in my career.
Unforgiving, ferocious attacks leave behind a bloody trail.
This was a tidal wave of violence.
Rattling even the most hardened of cops.
You know, you just looked at the body and you go, oh my God, why was it so brutal?
And pushing a young detective to exhaustion in his race to stop the bloodshed.
The pressure was overwhelming. I don't think I got a lot of sleep at all.
With the body count rising, investigators turn to forensic science, desperate to capture one of the most unexpected killers to ever stalk the sunny streets of Riverside County. Canyon Lake, California, an hour from Los Angeles. A sunny and safe oasis. A place where residents know their neighbors and where nobody locks their doors. Protected by a 12-foot wall and 24-hour security, Canyon Lake is a safe place to live. Or is it? It's February 16th, 1994.
Norma?
Alice Williams drops in on her 86-year-old friend, Norma Davis. She's worried that she hasn't heard from Norma in 2 days. They'd planned a trip to the beauty salon. Alice's concern turns to horror when she finds her friend dead. Detective Joe Greco arrives from the nearby Riverside County Sheriff's Department. It's the most horrific crime scene the young detective has ever witnessed.
I've never experienced anything like this in my career at that point. So I felt a heavy burden to really do the best I could, you know, in solving this case.
Greco notes that Norma has been strangled and stabbed twice.
The knife was protruding, and all you could see was the handle. It was completely embedded. It told me that the killer was extremely violent, probably enraged over what I didn't know.
Greco wonders who could possibly have anything against Norma Davis, a widow who spent her time golfing and playing bridge. Who would want her dead? Criminalists Alyssa Mayo and Ricky Cooksey move in to examine the victim's body.
Of the crime scenes that I've been to, the knives are usually out of the body, taken with a suspect to not leave evidence behind. So it's unusual to have knives left in the victim's body.
The knives were inserted all the way to the hilt, both in the neck and in the chest. And this was a substantial amount of force going into the body to put the knife in there.
For Mayo, the violent nature of the crime is shocking.
In all my years in criminalistics and going out to crime scenes, I can honestly say I've only seen this less than a handful of times.
While searching the house for clues, Greco moves to the kitchen and finds 2 blades missing from a knife block, suggesting that Norma might have been slain with her very own kitchen knives. But was the attack premeditated, or was it a case of a burglary gone wrong?
It didn't appear initially as if the house was ransacked. Norma's Medicare check was still on the counter in the kitchen, and that was not taken. So the police were very much wondering about the motivation of the killer.
Greco wonders why there are no signs of forced entry. Did Norma Davis let her killer in?
Hi, Alice.
Greco hopes that her best friend Alice can provide some insight. Through Alice, Greco learns that Norma Davis was a golfer, a romance novel fan, and had many friends. At 86, Norma didn't exactly live a high-risk lifestyle or encounter too many dangerous strangers. So who did she know that was capable of such a violent crime?
I'm sorry you had to see it.
Scouring the house for clues, crime scene analyst Ricky Cooksey discovers a footprint near the door.
The dust appeared with oblique lighting. It appeared white on a wooden floor background. So I chose to use a black gelatin lifter, which is a rubbery type substrate with a coat of gelatin on it.
Can you need a pair of shoes?
See what I can do.
And gelatin is great for picking up dust.
But Greco doesn't need the lab to tell him the shoe print doesn't belong to their victim, Norma Davis.
It's a bit bigger.
He also notes the shoe bears an identifiable logo.
It was an athletic shoe. It was a rather small size, something that a woman might wear.
Could a woman have committed such a heinous crime? Was the killer someone who knew Norma Davis? It seems inconceivable. But Greco can't rule out any possibilities.
Was that Norma?
I can't let you go any further. This is an ongoing investigation for homicide.
Jerry Armbrust was wearing athletic shoes when she came to the scene of the crime, and that kind of brought out suspicion that it may be her.
Greco brings the woman and her husband in for questioning. They are Jerry and Russell Armbrust.
And when Jerry's first husband passed away.
Jerry was previously married to Norma's son, Bill, who had died years earlier. Despite being remarried to Russell, her relationship with her mother-in-law continued.
They were still very, very close, and Norma was living in a condominium that was provided by Jerry and her current husband.
Obviously, there was no forced entry into the residence, so Jerry was the first person to really look at. She had keys to the residence.
And so Jerry was the one who looked in on Norma, brought her groceries, and basically took care of her and looked after her.
Greco is surprised by Jerry's unusual connection to her former mother-in-law. He wonders whether she has anything to gain from Norma's death.
So she had the opportunity, and the motive wasn't clear. I wasn't sure if we were dealing with something with a financial gain here, or if there was something else going on. But because she was the primary caretaker of the victim, she was the first person to go to.
I've got to go. I'll be back in a couple of days, okay?
Jerry tells Greco she came by on February 13th. She put Norma's Medicare check on the counter and left without disturbing her, assuming her ex-mother-in-law was asleep in front of the TV. For Greco to tie Jerry to the murder, he needs to know Norma's approximate time of death. A pill dispenser may hold the answer.
Because there had been a pill taken for a Monday in the morning, but not in the evening, they were able to fix the time approximately of the murder of sometime during the day or early evening of Monday, the 14th of February.
Norma was killed on Valentine's Day. As far as police knew, on February 13th, Jerry Armbrust was the last person to enter her house. Was the helpful former daughter-in-law telling the truth? Or was she a cold-blooded murderer? In Canyon Lake, California, 86-year-old Norma Davis is brutally stabbed and strangled in her home. It's the first murder to hit the quiet community, and residents fear for their lives. With no clear motive in sight, police focus on Jerry Armbrust, the victim's former daughter-in-law, who had both the means and opportunity to commit the crime. But is there any evidence to arrest her? While all forensic evidence is being evaluated, the police dig for other leads.
The community was worried that it could have been a transient, that it could have been maintenance workers, it could have been anybody at that point. So I interviewed quite a few people, just trying to find something that would give me some direction as to where to go.
Thanks for your help.
Fear in the close-knit neighborhood turns to panic when 2 weeks later, on February 28th, Greco is called to the scene of a second murder in the same complex, only blocks away from Norma Davis's Canyon Lake home. The victim is June Roberts.
June Roberts was a 66-year-old widow who lived in Canyon Lake. She's very typical of the people who are very active. She golfed. June was a nutritionist. She was very interested in health and nutrition.
Greco notes June was supposed to go out with her friends that night to celebrate her birthday. He also notices an immediate connection to Norma Davis's murder.
It was clear that she had been tied to the chair with a phone cord. One of the pieces of the cord were tied to the arm of the chair, and the other one was wrapped around her neck.
The chair itself was over on June's legs. So it was, an unusual scene to begin with, to see that, because I'd never seen a phone cord being used to strangle somebody and then have it actually tied to something else with the other end.
The phone cord wasn't the killer's only weapon. The floor is littered with the lethal shards of a broken wine bottle.
It appeared that the wine bottle could have been used as a bludgeoning object to hit June Roberts. So it looks like there were at least two different types of forces that were applied to her.
Only an autopsy can truly establish the method that killed her. But one thing is clear. June Roberts was caught off guard. Did she know her killer?
I don't know if she had time to fight back. If she had been hit with the wine bottle first, that would have really put her out. And then it would have given the killer time to tie her to the chair.
The murderer appears to have walked right in. Just like at Norma Davis's house, there's no sign of forced entry. But similarities don't end there.
Both victims were elderly. Both had been violently murdered in the den area of their home. In both cases, nothing obvious was taken from the scene.
Perhaps the most telling similarity is that both the killings are too violent to be just burglaries. There's an expensive diamond ring on June's finger that the killer didn't take. Greco notices, however, that a couple of credit cards seem to be missing from her wallet. Suspecting a link between the recent murders, Greco needs to find concrete evidence to tie them together. Except for being elderly women and neighbors, what else do Norma Davis and June Roberts have in common?
At the time that this murder occurred, it appeared as if she was rearranging photos in her family album. She had a Bible open and she was reading some Bible passages.
A prayer list tucked in the Bible connects June to the first victim, Norma Davis. Were they friends? Greco considers the possibility.
The fact that they both lived within close proximity to one another, you could walk from Norma's house to June's house, no problem.
Greco and his team discover a photo that further suggests a link between the two murders. June's late husband, Dwayne, was friends with Jerry's current husband, Russell. Now Greco can tie both his victims to Jerry Armbrust, Norma Davis's former daughter-in-law.
I was leaning towards Jerry as being the potential killer because she knew both victims and she had access to the community. She could get in and out of the gates without any problems. So my focus was with Jerry.
Greco is determined to leave no stone unturned and asks Ricky Cooksey to compare the original shoe print collected from Norma Davis's house to a new print from a shoe provided by Jerry Armbrust. But the prints don't match. The autopsy on June Roberts only serves to muddy the waters.
The forensic pathologist determined that there was manual and ligature strangulation.
If the killer is indeed a small woman, as the shoe print evidence suggests, would she be physically capable of strangling someone to death with her bare hands? Greco begins to question his own instincts about the killer's gender.
At that time, I was 28 years old. I was a new detective. I didn't have any experience really in this area, and I was faced with a serial homicide case. The pressure was overwhelming. I don't think I got a lot of sleep at all.
Greco turns to forensic psychologist Dr. Phoebe Kelso. The FBI-trained profiler helps him piece together a picture of the killer, one that is definitely male.
When you see the amount of violence at the June Roberts scene, your first thought would be, it's a male. Because women don't want to see all the blood and the gore. They also don't commit crimes generally that are what we consider the up close and personal. You know, the stranglings. They like to use poison or they use a gun.
Could Detective Greco be suspecting the wrong half of the Armbrust couple? Could the real suspect be Russell Armbrust, Jerry's husband, who also provided the condo for Norma Davis, Jerry's former mother-in-law? Russell also has strong links to the second murder. He's close friends with Dwayne Roberts, the husband of the second victim, June Roberts. To assess if Russell could fit the killer profile, Dr. Kelso executes a victimology, a process that examines each victim's habits and character traits.
They both played golf.
You want to know these victims as well as you know yourself, because knowing the victim tells you so much about the offender. It's incredible.
The fact that Russell Armbrust knew both victims well suggests he could be a viable suspect. By stalking familiar women, the killer could have easily learned their habits and routines.
When we're dealing with elderly women like this, they're very, very cautious about who they let in their homes.
Hi, come on in.
Either this person knew the victims, or for some reason they were able to con their way into the house by making the victim trust them. They wouldn't have been very suspicious looking.
From Dr. Kelso's assessment, Greco knows that Russell Armbrust could fit the profile of the killer. But none of the evidence supports his theory. Greco has nothing to tie Jerry or her husband Russell to the crimes, and both their alibis prove rock solid.
It was frustrating. It was very frustrating to not have any kind of physical evidence or solid leads to follow up on.
With a murderer still on the loose, Detective Greco worries the body count will keep rising. To what lengths will he have to go to stop the Canyon Lake is in a panic after the brutal and senseless killing of 2 senior citizens.
For Canyon Lake, this was a tidal wave of violence. There's a lot of theories that cropped up. People were very concerned that this was some sort of an organized cult killing, targeting elderly women in Canyon Lake. They were extremely frightened.
These things were happening very fast, so I didn't really have a whole lot of time. From the first victim to the second victim was only 2 weeks.
The tip line was absolutely flooded with panicked community members. They were calling in about people who were transient, people who just didn't look right, people who were just strangers. Many of the elderly people either moved out, many of them moved in with one another for safety, and many of the adult children of the elderly residents came and scooped up their parents and took them out of Canyon Lake. They were that scared.
While Detective Greco strongly fears the killer will strike again, he's no closer to finding a suspect. Greco returns to the location of the last 2 murders.
Getting your son here?
Yeah.
So I could look at everything and try to go over it and over it and try to figure out if there was something that I'd missed.
But coming up empty-handed again, Greco wonders if the missing clue might be found somewhere else. Checking with the credit departments, he catches a break. He receives an activity report on the missing credit cards of the second victim, June Roberts, and discovers someone used the cards the day she was murdered.
We divided the receipts amongst the detectives involved in this case to follow up on the credit cards. And one of the places that I went to in particular was a salon in the city of Temecula where the card was used.
Greco learns that June's credit card was used to pay for a series of services. In particular, a woman had treated herself to a manicure, pedicure, and haircut just 45 minutes after June was viciously murdered.
She told me that the woman had blonde hair, described her as being between 5'4" and 5'6", weighing approximately 130 pounds.
Even more surprising, he learns that the woman wasn't alone. She was with a young child.
See you later, bye.
Who was using June's credit cards, and what connection did she have to the Canyon Lake killer?
So if you can just describe...
Working with the manicurist, a forensic artist puts a face to the mystery shopper. Shattering Greco's earlier suspicions, the woman who used the credit cards is not Jerry Armbrust. But was this the face of the killer? On March 10th, 3 miles away, in nearby Lake Elsinore, Greco is called to emergency. There's been a third attack. But 56-year-old Dorinda Hawkins is still alive. She's been choked so violently, she can barely tell her story.
A strong person, really strong.
Dorinda tells Greco she was working her normal shift at a downtown antique store when she heard a customer enter the shop.
Hi, have a look around. I'll be with you in a sec.
But this was no ordinary customer.
During the attack, Dorinda was telling the attacker, you can have anything you want, take anything that you want, let me live. You know, I have 8 kids. And the attacker told her, I'm not here for the money. She fought back, and the attacker was telling her to just relax, stop fighting, that it was going to be over in a minute.
Relax, relax!
The attacker was actually standing on her while getting leverage and trying to pull the rope around her neck tighter.
Greco speculates that the thick layer of material from her turtleneck sweater likely saved Dorinda's life that day. At the forensics lab, Marianne Stamm examines Dorinda's clothing, hoping to find trace evidence that might lead police to her attacker.
Forensic scientists or criminalists collect significant evidence, such as hairs that may be foreign to the victim, and therefore could possibly have come from a suspect.
Stamm, who has collected hair samples from all 3 victims, now recovers a single blonde strand from Dorinda's sweater. Could this hair belong to her attacker? At the crime scene, Greco looks for any connections to the Canyon Lake murders. With cash still in the open register and no valuables taken, it's clear robbery wasn't a motive for the attack. So what was the assailant after? Greco is faced with 3 attacks in 3 weeks, the latest bearing no geographical connection to the first 2. Was this latest assault simply a copycat crime? If the Dorinda Hawkins attack is connected to the Canyon Lake crimes, then Greco may have his first big break in the case. An eyewitness.
Dorinda Hawkins was an absolute crucial element to this investigation because she was the living victim of this attacker, and she was able to describe in detail the attacker's description to police.
Confirming that the attacker is the same woman who used June Roberts' credit cards.
The most chilling detail that Dorinda gave the police was that it appeared as if during the attack, the woman was extremely calm, and after the struggle, it appeared as if her attacker had not a hair out of place.
Greco is hunting for a blonde, athletic serial killer in her mid-30s. But who is she? And how is she selecting her victims? With 2 murders and 1 attempted murder in the last 3 weeks, each one bolder than the last, the pressure is mounting for Detective Greco to solve the case. Can he find the Canyon Lake killer before it's too late? A vicious killer has butchered 2 women and tried to strangle a 3rd in Riverside County. The attacks are cold-blooded and violent. Forensic sketches link the 2nd murder of June Roberts with the strangulation attack on Dorinda Hawkins and strongly confirm that the serial killer is a woman. As Detective Greco continues to track a shopping spree that may be linked to his killer, he wonders what kind of person could commit such horrendous crimes and then reward herself with indulgence and pampering. Greco returns to Dr. Kelso for more psychological insight.
Female killers fall into 2 separate groups. The Black Widows will marry over and over and over again. The reason is financial gain. The other group is a nursing group. Their choice of victim, almost always, are the elderly. And then when they die, nobody's really all that shocked.
Anxious to find out if the killer falls into either of these categories, Greco accelerates his search. He goes from the spa to a new hair salon listed on the credit card statement, tracking the women's movements, trying to find out more about her. And he does. The stylist tells Greco that the same customer came in to get her hair color dyed from blonde to red. Why, after 3 attacks, would the killer decide to change her appearance? Was she closely following the investigation? Or was she disguising herself to kill again?
Norma was here.
Detective Greco, as young as he was and as inexperienced as he was, always went back to his basics and always went back to his training.
No signs of forced entry. The killer is familiar to the murder victims. Who is Greco overlooking? Greco starts to narrow his search.
The first purchase this person made on June Roberts' card was in Lake Elsinore. You would think that they lived in that area or had ties to that area. So I went back to Jerry to find out whether or not she knew anything about the suspect that I was looking for.
Despite once being a suspect herself, Jerry Armbrust is completely cooperative, anxious to find her ex-mother-in-law's killer.
I provided her with details of what this person looked like, and also the fact that she had this boy with her.
But Jerry can't think of anyone she knows with a young son.
I don't know anyone that has an 8-year-old boy. I'm sorry.
The following morning, as Greco plans his next move, he's paid an unexpected visit by a troubled Jerry Armbrust.
Okay.
Jerry tells Greco that her husband Russell's daughter, Dana, stopped over to visit the night before.
Hey, little girl, look at you!
Jerry noticed some disturbing details in her stepdaughter's appearance.
The height fit, the age fit. She recently had dyed her hair from blonde to red, and her boyfriend's son was with her quite a bit. And that she had once lived in Canyon Lake and still had a pass to get in.
To Greco, there is no doubt that the woman in the forensic sketch is Dana Sue Gray.
I knew I had the right person, and my immediate feeling was that we need to move on this quickly.
With no time to lose, Greco tries to locate Dana.
We've had 3 victims within a month's time, and we need to get her into custody before somebody else gets hurt.
Please leave message after tone.
But Jerry's stepdaughter is nowhere to be found. Greco rallies the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, to find and capture Dana Sue Gray. With 2 women dead and a third in critical condition, Greco knows the killer will strike again. They need to move quickly before another person falls victim to her wrath. With 3 attacks in less than a month, Detective Joe Greco has finally zeroed in on a prime suspect. The woman's name is Dana Sue Gray, who matches the forensic sketch of the killer to a T. Officers are dispatched across the county looking for their prime suspect.
When I learned that it was a female, I was somewhat surprised, primarily because of the level of violence. These are not the type of crimes that women in general tend to commit. They tend to be a lot less violent.
But Dr. Kelso's original profile of female serial killers was accurate. The suspect falls perfectly into one of the 2 categories.
Dana Sue Gray was a nurse. She had gone from living in Canyon Lake and being married and having a job as a nurse at a community hospital to living with a blue-collar mechanic who lived with his young son in Lake Elsinore.
On March 16th, the surveillance team stakes out her home.
Dana had lost her job. She had been spending a lot of her boyfriend's money, and he was about $10,000 in debt. She had used up his credit cards all the way up to the limit.
While Greco and his team wait for Dana to return to her Lake Elsinore home, additional police race to Sun City, 5 miles north of Canyon Lake. Another murder has been committed. The battered and bloody corpse of 86-year-old Dora Beebe is discovered inside her condo. She has been strangled and bludgeoned to death.
It appeared like somebody was really mad, and they were taking out a lot of rage on this old lady. The perpetrator or the suspect who did this was naturally stronger than her. And, you just looked at the body and you go, oh my God, but, why did somebody do this? Why was it so brutal?
A phone cord left under Dora's body eerily echoes the first 2 murders. A clothes iron used to strike Dora Beebe in the head also likely caused her death.
There were similarities between it and the previous cases in Canyon Lake. No forced entry, the age of the victims, maybe the victimology of the victims, the fact that the violence seemed to be escalating.
Although investigators believe the cases are linked, they still need concrete evidence to prove it. Did the killer take Dora Beebe's checkbook? Back at the stakeout in Lake Elsinore, Dana finally returns home, and police move in for the arrest.
Dana answered the door, and she was surprised. She was in shock. She asked me what it was about, and I told her, I think you know what this is about, and you need to come with me.
Inside her home, police discover a stockpile of luxury goods. The killer has been on a steady shopping spree, just as they suspected.
There were diamond earrings, there were shoes, there were quite a number of mundane items, but all of these items would have provided linkage evidence to substantiate the fact that she used the credit cards of the victims after their death.
Still searching Dana's home, the forensic team finds more than just shopping loot. They find Dora Beebe's missing checkbook.
I realized that Dana was out killing her last victim earlier in that day.
With Dana Sue Gray finally in custody, Greco pressures her to confess.
Dana, you know why you're here, don't you?
Dana claims to know nothing and denies all of Greco's accusations. But confronted with the shopping spree evidence, Dana suddenly changes her story. She admits to finding Dora Beebe's checkbook in a garbage can. Her admission stops the detective dead in his tracks. Since police have yet to make the details of Dora Beebe's investigation public, Only her murderer would know that her checkbook is missing. For Detective Greco, this is the slip he's been waiting for.
Thank you.
I recalled in the middle of the interview getting up, leaving the interview, and going to talk to the detective that was working that case.
Detectives Greco and Cordova now know for sure that just hours before her arrest, Dana Sue Gray followed Dora Beebe into her house and savagely attacked the innocent woman, bludgeoning her to death. Dana is a cold-blooded butcher who kills and then goes shopping.
I told that officer what happened, and I told him.
Greco knows she's guilty, but does he have enough evidence to tie her to all 4 attacks? With a prime murder suspect finally in custody, police put an end to a community's month-long reign of terror. But Dana Sue Gray continues to deny any involvement in the killings, admitting only to finding Dora Beebe's checkbook and using June Roberts' credit cards.
When we asked her about credit cards, she said, "Oh, I found them." And I decided to use them. Then we pressed her further and further and further on, well, where did you find them at? And she gave us a lame story of where she found them and how she found them.
The noose around Dana's neck tightens when investigators, still poring over her house, discover a large collection of size 6 running shoes.
And from looking at those shoes and having an idea of a possible shoe print that was found at the very first homicide scene, I decided that we should collect all of those shoes so that we could take them back to the laboratory and look at them for blood, and then have an analyst do a shoe print comparison.
Ricky Cooksey pulls various prints from Dana's stockpile of shoes and compares them to the print recovered from the home of the first victim, Norma Davis. His work finally pays off. A print from one of Dana's shoes perfectly matches the one collected from the first murder scene. A handwriting expert proves that Dora Beebe's checks were most definitely signed by Dana. All evidence points to Dana's guilt, but investigators need to build an airtight case to ensure a solid conviction. Hair analysis allows investigators to prove that witness descriptions of the killer were consistent with Dana's hair color changes.
I asked the investigators to bring in the suspect's hairbrush. I was able to see a trend where the suspect's hair was most likely a blonde or a light brown color, versus later on, towards her last victim, she had changed her hair color more to a reddish color.
The most damning evidence of all comes from Dorinda Hawkins, the one victim that looked Dana Sue Gray in the eyes and survived. But Detective Greco still needs a motive. Why did Dana kill Norma Davis? A woman she was quite fond of. A woman she called Nana.
Dana, is that you?
Hi, Nana.
I made some cookies. Bring them in. They're right there on the counter.
Okay.
Norma Davis happened to live in a condo provided for her by Jerry and Russell Armbrust.
Detective Greco learned through Jerry that if and when Norma Davis had passed away, that Dana would be able to move into that condo. She was a very attractive young woman. She was socially acceptable. She knows how to talk to people. And so it was easy for her to get into Norma Davis's home.
With Norma dead, Dana could finally return to the lifestyle she'd lost and still coveted. And with the help of June Roberts' credit cards, she'd be able to maintain it.
Hi, come on in.
I think that she did enjoy watching them die, and that she enjoyed that feeling of domination, of power and control over them. I do believe that she was a psychopath. She absolutely seemed to have no guilt or remorse over anything. They're narcissistic. They blame everybody else for things that go wrong in their life. You know, the victim deserved it. She disrespected me.
How could a fun-loving California girl, who seemed to do everything right for most of her life, become a serial killer?
She was a thrill seeker. She liked to kill because she liked the thrill.
But for Dana, killing innocent victims wasn't enough.
It was very shocking to discover that during the murder of June Roberts, Dana had brought along her boyfriend's son. And that little boy waited in the car while Dana went inside.
Where she proceeded to bludgeon, choke, and strangle June to death while the little boy waited patiently.
After that, Dana went and got a massage. Apparently, the little boy had to wait for that as well.
Right, let's go.
And she ate lunch at a fancy cafe and then she took him shopping.
Detective Greco can't explain the killer's actions.
I don't know if Dana was always dangerous. I don't know if she snapped and something changed in her. It's really hard to say. It's something that only she can answer.
While he credits forensics for producing overwhelming evidence against Dana Sue Gray, Greco believes the person who really solved the case is Jerry Armbrust.
She's the one that deserves all the credit because she didn't have to help me out. It was her own stepdaughter, you know. That had to be very difficult, and it really changed their lives. It changed everybody's lives.
Dana Sue Gray is one of only 36 documented female serial killers in history. Unlike most women killers, she is distinguished by the level of violence used against her victims. Convicted at age 36, Dana continues to serve her life sentence at the California Women's Prison in Chowchilla, with no chance of parole. April 1992. After battling heavy traffic, Nancy Blackburn finally arrives at her destination. A weekend of peace and relaxation awaits. Or so she believes. For Nancy Blackburn, the trip marks the end of a long, cold winter. But it also marks the beginning of a nightmare. A nightmare that will yet claim many more victims.
He's an absolute sexual deviant. He's a predator. The viciousness that he displayed, his ruthlessness, I find to be just chilling.
You clearly had someone to me to fit the category of a serial killer.
Investigators must work feverishly to identify an elusive psychopath.
We had no idea who that person was.
Then hunt him down and stop his rampage.
There would be no end of victims until he was caught.
Uncle Ian? Auntie Nance?
Monday, April 13th, 1992. In an upscale neighborhood in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Jamie Osborne checks in on his aunt and uncle after they fail to show up at a weekend family party. But no one's home. Nothing in the house suggests where they may be.
Uncle Ian? Auntie Nance?
About 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the evening, he also notices that there's keys to the vehicle in the key container.
The keys are to Nancy Blackburn's car. Perhaps it holds a clue to the couple's whereabouts.
He goes to the back of the car, opens the trunk.
Inside is a sight Jamie will never forget. Metro Toronto police are soon on the scene.
It was called about two bodies found in the trunk of a car at 3 St. Leonard's in 53 Division in downtown Toronto.
Detective Sergeant Doug Grady joins forensics expert Richard McEwen, and the investigation begins. An initial glance at the naked female victim reveals the case's first piece of information.
Lividity, which is the blood flowing to the lowest possible area, had set in on the victim, and she had been in the position she was for some time.
The dead couple is quickly identified as Nancy and Ian Blackburn. Neither have been seen for some days. As Nancy's car is secured to protect it from the elements, Grady moves his team inside the Blackburns' upscale North Toronto home. They spend hours combing it for signs of foul play.
Nothing was found that was out of place within the house. There's no signs of violence or any type of struggle that was noticeable.
It becomes evident that the couple was not murdered within these walls. But why were they killed at all?
He was the owner-broker of a business with a partner. They were quite successful. The female victim was a registered nurse who was actively involved in businesses in Toronto. So they were well enough off.
Authorities wonder, was robbery the prime motive behind the murders? They soon get their answer.
There's no way a thief could miss us.
All the Blackburns' possessions seem to be in place, but they learn that something crucial is missing.
And then when I open up the car...
Ian Blackburn's car is not in the garage or anywhere near the property. Grady issues an all-points bulletin for the vehicle as the bodies are removed from Nancy's car and sent to the morgue. Her vehicle is then taken to the Center of Forensic Sciences to be investigated.
And then we did an extensive examination of the car, fingerprints analysis done on all the surfaces of the car.
Police are hopeful the killer left behind evidence of himself, but they are disappointed.
Unfortunately, no usable fingerprints were found on the car itself. And we could attribute that to the fact that it was cold weather.
Sweat is necessary for a clean fingerprint. In cold weather, the pores that provide sweat close up and leave little moisture behind. In the back seat, authorities do find something interesting. A thermal bag from which they recover a roasting pan. Inside the pan is a fully prepared dinner of beef and vegetables. Meanwhile, at the morgue, an examination of Ian Blackburn's injuries raises more questions than it answers. McEwen determines that he was suffocated after being severely beaten.
He had been punched in the face. He had bruising to him. Somebody had taken control of him quite strongly.
A look at the victim's right leg reveals a particularly intriguing clue.
But he had an unusual, in my experience, unusual markings. Just above his right knee, there was a ligature mark, a very strong ligature mark.
Most captives McEwen has dealt with have been bound at the wrists and ankles. Why would Ian be tied around the knee?
He also had a cylinder mark around his skull. Is consistent with a firearm being placed there very strongly against the side of his head.
McEwen now examines Nancy Blackburn. She too has been asphyxiated. No evidence of sexual assault is found, but her injuries paint a picture of extreme violence. Most alarming is the discovery that both of Nancy's shoulders have been pulled out of their sockets.
At first you're trying to figure out in what kind of scenarios could have resulted in this.
At the forensic garage, investigators finally recover a piece of hard evidence, a bloody Kleenex on the floor of the car. Lab analysis reveals that the blood is not a match to either victim. Could it be the killers? There's no way to be sure. With nothing but speculation to go on, Grady and his team are in need of a break. And suddenly they get one, when Ian Blackburn's car is located 1 hour north of the city at his summer farmhouse. On the case is Detective Inspector Jim Hutchison.
The male victim's vehicle was still in the Caledon area, had been parked there for considerable days.
But a much more compelling find awaits Hutchison inside. Police believe they have just found their murder scene. The bodies of Ian and Nancy Blackburn are found in Nancy's car at the couple's Toronto home. The search for their killer leads police 1 hour north of the city to the Blackburns' summer farmhouse. Ian Blackburn's car has been found outside and human blood on the stairs inside. Detectives Grady and McEwen arrive on the scene. Together with Inspector Hutchison, they seek hard evidence to prove this is their crime scene. Ian Blackburn's car places him at the location within the time frame when the couple died.
We could tell that the vehicle had been there for at least a few days because there were markings around the car where rain had come down and where the soot had been, and there was a clear outline around the vehicle.
Grady obtains phone records for the farmhouse and discovers that the last 2 outgoing calls were made to the Blackburns' Toronto home 3 days before the couple was discovered. This evidence, together with the roster from Nancy's car, suggests that Ian began the day alone at the cabin and telephoned Nancy to join him.
The speculation was that she had driven up to meet with her husband and had brought a prepared meal.
And at that point, we believe both vehicles were at the farmhouse.
Speculation becomes fact when lab results confirm the blood found on the stairs is Nancy's. At the same time, the investigators receive some startling information from local authorities. 6 months earlier, another Toronto resident had been attacked only 2 kilometers away from the Blackburn cottage.
A vehicle was found off the road in the ditch in Caledon of a store owner from Toronto by the name of Carolyn Case. She had disappeared from her store downtown Toronto, and then there was some blood found in the car that was identified as being Carolyn Case.
Presumed murdered, Case's body has not been recovered. As police wonder if the 2 crimes could be connected, the investigation takes another turn.
window, gentlemen.
Yeah? You think this is the point of entry, or?
It looks like it. Officer, flashlight, please.
There were small pry marks on a window that indicated that there had been forced entry to it.
In here, and he made his way in with looks like what could be a knife.
Tool impressions are recorded, and investigators soon learn from local police just how significant they are. It seems that cops throughout the area are all too familiar with these impressions, having seen them at a rash of unique cottage break-ins over the winter. The homicide team is told all about the strange and elusive intruder known as the House Hermit.
The press nicknamed him the House Hermit, and that's how he became known. He would break into a cottage over the winter and live there for a period of time and then abandon it.
He was using the bed. He had the heat turned on in the area. He had a fry pan that he was using.
Evidence of a visit by the House Hermit includes mounds of used tea bags.
Our suspect liked to drink Twining's tea.
And that's not all.
He was using plastic jugs to keep his urine because the water system was not turned on for the winters.
He also keeps a stockpile of his own feces, wrapped in newspapers.
Paper was folded in a kind of a unique manner.
We referred to it as a fish and chip tuck.
What sounds merely eccentric turns possibly sinister when the team is informed that one of the cottages the House Hermit broke into was that of a gun collector.
That break-and-enter, several handguns were taken. Newer guns, older guns, automatic revolvers. And that was quite a concern.
Investigators wonder, could the mysterious Hermit also be a killer?
So we had an idea that whoever was committing the break-and-enters may be the person responsible for these murders.
The problem with this theory is that no evidence is found inside the Blackburn farmhouse to suggest the House Hermit camped here. Hutchison moves the hunt for clues outside.
I had brought in the ERT team, emergency response team, to search the property and also all the concession roads and that leading up and down the farm.
The effort soon turns up exactly what the police are hoping for. Garbage bags on the Blackburn property containing signs of the House Hermit. Tea bags, urine-filled jugs, and the most telling calling card of all.
There were human feces wrapped in the sports section of a newspaper from the Toronto Star.
The pages are dated February 27th. Inside the farmhouse, Grady finds a newspaper for the same date, missing the sports section.
It more or less tied in the victim's residence to what we found outside.
In the garbage, investigators also recover ammunition they are able to trace back to the break-in at the gun collector's cottage. Authorities now suspect that one of those stolen guns had been pressed against Ian Blackburn's head.
We put out the information on the firearms, all of the serial numbers of the firearms.
In another disturbing development at the morgue, medical examiners are getting an idea of just how violently Nancy Blackburn died. In particular, how her shoulders were ripped out of their sockets.
The pathologist attributed to that injury to having your hands behind your back and then being hung up.
And the pathologist described it as being hogtied.
Clearly, their killer enjoys extreme violence.
But we still had no idea who that person was.
Here we go.
Welcome, come on in.
Mrs. Appleton. Pleasure to meet you. Jim Hutchison.
Then Hutchison is made aware of an extraordinary report filed weeks earlier by an elderly couple, Rose and Samuel Appleton. They had an encounter with the House Hermit and were lucky to escape with their lives. Finally, the police are ready to put a face to the man they suspect is their cold-blooded killer. After making a possible link between the Blackburn double murder and a rash of bizarre break-ins in cottage country, police have found witnesses that may help them identify a mysterious drifter dubbed the House Hermit. Investigators hang on every word as Rose and Samuel Appleton recount the brush they had with their intruder.
In early March of 1992, an elderly couple from Toronto came up to the Midland area out on Georgian Bay to pay their taxes for their cottage, but also check the cottage and make sure that everything was fine over the winter.
So give me a second, I'll turn on the power, check the pipes. Are you okay, dear? Yeah, I won't be long.
He asked his wife to stay in the car. He walks to the cottage. He opens it up, he goes in.
He was confronted by our suspect, who had a firearm.
Took control of the older gentleman and took him back to the car.
Told him to drive me to Toronto to your house and I'll leave you there.
The hour-long trip to Toronto is spent in silence and terror. But once in the city, the Appletons defy the House Hermit's order to take him to their residence.
He drove this person right to Dundas and Yonge, in the busiest street in Toronto, right at the busiest corner of Toronto.
I will not take you to our home. If you're going to shoot us right here.
The Appletons await their fate, but in the end, their brave tactic works.
The suspect got out of the car and took off.
And I honestly believe that that action saved their lives.
The couple now tells police everything they can remember about their assailant.
Both gave descriptions of the individuals that had attacked, and a composite drawing was prepared by the OPP artist.
We had the similarities in the break-ins, and now we had a description of our suspect.
Yes, he was. He had dark glasses on.
We thought of releasing composite drawings, but composite drawings give you quite often 1,000 names that mean nothing. Composite drawing sometimes isn't exact enough.
Local investigation at the time of the incident revealed evidence that the House Hermit had camped at the Appleton cottage. Hutchison now returns there and discovers a box the Hermit had stashed away. Inside are alarming contents.
There was quite an extensive collection of porn found at that time.
Much of the pornography features acts of S&M. In particular, photographs of women who have been hogtied.
And some of it was cut out and classified. And classified, I mean, categorized, would keep it in different groups.
There'd be a whole bunch of breast pictures, and then there'd be a whole bunch of anus pictures. It wasn't that he was cutting out and putting them together. It was just that they would be cutting it up and categorizing it.
A troubling profile of the suspected killer emerges from this evidence.
He was somebody who was good with his hands, somebody who was methodical.
And also that he was fantasy-driven. I believe that he could only gain satisfaction through a type of bondage or violence.
Police now review their evidence. Ian's car, abandoned at the Blackburn farmhouse. The phone records showing calls from the farmhouse to his Toronto residence. The roasting pan in Nancy's car. Her blood on the stairs. Signs that the House Hermit entered the farmhouse and camped there. His appetite for violent pornography. And lastly, the vicious wounds to both Ian and Nancy. Taken together, they form a picture of how and why the Blackburns died. It starts with Ian arriving at the farmhouse alone, having driven up in his vehicle. He's completely unaware that the House Hermit is residing inside. Ian enters the residence, phones Nancy in Toronto, and they discuss her driving up to join him.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hi, sweetie. Yeah, I've got the roast in the oven.
And I'll probably be there in a couple hours. All right.
Okay, hon. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Great. Bye.
By the time Nancy arrives, Ian is powerless to help her.
Ian? Honey?
I'm scared.
The house hermit overpowers her. Then hogties her and assaults her in accordance with his sexually sadistic fantasies. Finally, he kills her and throws her in the trunk of her car. The hermit now cleans up his campsite, throws the garbage in the woods, and prepares to leave the area. Though police can't be sure how the Blackburns ended up back in Toronto, a closer examination of Ian Blackburn's injuries, including the ligature mark on his right leg, point to the likely circumstance. His right arm was tied to his right leg with enough slack to allow him to drive, while his left arm and ankle were tightly bound together.
And forced the male victim to drive the vehicle back to Toronto, possibly not even knowing that his wife was in the trunk, and probably hoping to save his own life, hoping to get back to Caledon to release his wife, who would be tied up back at the cottage.
What now?
And once he got into the driveway, he was asphyxiated, put in the trunk of the car, and they were left there.
But despite their theories, all police have to show for the investigation is a bloody tissue and a composite sketch they can connect to no one. Then, they make a discovery that just may turn things around. Under the pornography found at the Appletons' property are several strange lists of military equipment.
Fokker airplanes against Sopwith Campbells, you know, like unique planes. All crossed off. Firearms, rifles against cannons. It appeared to be a solitary game of war.
But for the investigators, more important than the content of the lists is the style in which they have been written. The handwriting is so unique, it might prove as effective as a fingerprint in identifying someone. The team goes public with their manhunt.
We provided the media with a copy of the handwriting, and it went in national media, both on television and in the print media.
Police know all too well the risks they take releasing their evidence. It may alert the suspect that they're onto him. But if they don't roll the dice and take this gamble, they'll never catch a killer before he strikes again. Police have distributed samples of the house hermit's unique handwriting to the media in hopes that someone can help identify their elusive suspect. Within hours, they hit pay dirt, courtesy of Allison Shaw.
Well, we had a call from a female called Allison who said that she definitely knew that writing, that she knew the individual for the last 2 or 3 years.
Pleasure to meet you. Jim Hutchison.
Nice, pleasure.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Allison sits down with authorities and unfolds the story of their suspect.
So why don't you explain to me this list that we spoke about on the phone?
I met him in Orangeville, Ontario. He was working on a building which was behind my apartment that I rented with my husband at the time.
A bit of a description of him?
I have a picture. Does that help?
That'd be fantastic.
She also provides investigators with what they want most, an identification.
And it was that time that she gave us the name David Snow.
David Snow owned a shop called Nothing in Particular, and it was a knick-knack shop. Allison worked for him in the knick-knack shop.
Allison had seen samples of Snow's distinctive handwriting on inventory lists for the store.
See, this is a German Ju-87 Stuka dive bomber.
Yeah?
See, the thing about this plane is it wasn't the fastest plane. And it wasn't even... But what it did do...
He'd come over after work with Darius, who was my husband. Come up to the apartment, have dinner, a couple of beers. It got to be a daily occurrence in pretty short order. I noticed he had a real problem with hygiene. He had terrible body odor. Like he hadn't showered in months. He had really rotten teeth. It's awful.
In fact, he had the kind of bad teeth that are prone to bleeding. But despite his terrible hygiene, Allison got along well with her eccentric employer.
Our relationship was okay. It was fine. It wasn't close. It wasn't distant. It was just me doing my thing and him doing his.
That is, until Snow discovered that Allison was expecting her first child.
David, I didn't see you there.
Why didn't you tell me?
Excuse me?
You told Sherry that you were pregnant. You never told me.
He didn't react very well at all. He said, I thought I was a better friend to you than that. Like, what?
I guess I don't mean anything to you.
And stormed off. You know, like he was my husband or something? It just blew me away.
Allison had to accept that something was very wrong with David Snow. But no one else in Orangeville seemed bothered by his peculiar ways.
No one ever said anything about any of that. Ever. I felt like I was the only one.
In her experience, Snow's behavior continued to grow increasingly strange and unsettling.
I had seen this real change in him, this slow decline over the last few months. That I really got frightened, you know? I don't know why, I still don't know why, but I did.
Authorities ask Allison where her boss is now. She has no idea. The investigation moves to the town where Snow had his shop. Police inquire after the man believed to be the house hermit and their killer.
We went around to the Orangeville area there, and we had officers going door to door handing out pictures of David Snow.
Homicide in your area. Please tell me if you've seen this man.
When we started doing a background history on him, we found that he never drove. He walked everywhere.
His older brother had tried to teach him to drive at one point, and he just broke out into a sweat. He was nervous. He put the car in the ditch and jumped out and said, I will never get inside a car again.
Police also learned substantial details about Snow's departure from the area over 8 months ago.
October 3rd of 1991, he went into the taxi stand in Orangeville, which he used. It was very, very early in the morning. He was covered with mud, and he was wet, and he got a ride, and he paid cash and jumped out of the vehicle in Guelph, and that's the last that he was seen in Orangeville.
The most alarming thing about Snow's disappearance is that it occurred on the very same day that the car of Toronto store owner Carolyn Case was found in a ditch in Caledon.
Now, the location of that car, if you follow the county road that the car was on, slightly farther north, it almost runs into the area where the Snow's family home was.
David Snow may not be just a killer. He may be a serial killer.
I thought somebody who's committed these type of crimes is not going to stop until they're caught. They have no regard for anybody else. So, yes, we were concerned.
Authorities put out a Canada-wide arrest warrant for their prime suspect. But as they scramble to find David Snow, a predator is stalking more prey. David Snow is the prime suspect in the murders of Ian and Nancy Blackburn. Now, just as police launch an intense search to find him, a 21-year-old photo store clerk goes missing on July 1st, 1992. No one has seen her since the previous evening when she worked alone at the business. On the case is RCMP investigator Randy Bennett. But the strange thing about this crime is that it hasn't taken place in Toronto or even Ontario. The victim has been abducted over 3,000 kilometers away in Vancouver, British Columbia. Besides no witnesses, the scene offers few clues for Bennett's investigators.
They had absolutely no information to work on and were relying on some public assistance to try to support their investigation.
Law enforcement combs the city looking for the abducted woman. 10 days later, there's still no sign of her. Then, on July 11th, there's another kidnapping.
There had been a young lady abducted from a video store in North Vancouver.
The only witness to the crime is a badly shaken video store manager.
It was somewhat sketchy information that a lone male individual entered the video store. The manager was tied up and left in the building, and a female employee was removed from the building. The manager was able to free himself from his ligatures and made the call in that there'd been a robbery and an abduction, and the employee was missing.
In describing the perpetrator, the manager notes that he had terrible body odor and a mouthful of rotten teeth. Bennett learns the victim's car is missing from the parking lot, and a citywide dragnet begins. Among the cops on high alert is Constable David Kwasnika. He decides to head for Mount Seymour Provincial Park, as the area best fits his theory about the man they are hunting.
I felt that the suspect was abducting this woman in order to sexually assault her and would likely take the woman to a secluded area.
Kwasnika drives around the corner in a remote area of the park.
And that's where we found the vehicle.
They called in the location where they were at, and we were sending extra members to reinforce and to provide backup for them.
Kwasnika and his partner proceed to secure the vehicle and look for any clues the abductor may have left behind.
And at that point, that's when we heard the screaming from the forest.
Tucked in the woods, just off the road, Kwasnika discovers the badly assaulted victim from the video store. At least she's alive.
She was in a squatting position. Her wrists were tied to her ankles.
And just as backup arrives, Kwasnika gets another shock.
And I started running towards the screams that I heard.
Not far from the first victim, the officers discover a makeshift campsite. Tied to a tree is another woman who's been severely brutalized. Kwasnika immediately recognizes her as the victim kidnapped 10 days earlier from the photo store.
The crime scene Had some sleeping bags and personal articles and personal clothing and some food garbage and debris.
Kwasniewski and his partner try to comfort the traumatized woman.
What disturbed me was how this victim reacted with no reaction, just like very calm, cool, collected, and monotone voice.
As the women are escorted out of the woods, more police move in, and the hunt for the perpetrator kicks into high gear.
They are directed that we would deploy other police cars to start setting up roadblocks and try to contain a male suspect that had fled off into the bushes.
But given the nature of Mount Seymour Park, that's not going to be easy.
It's very densely treed with lots of undergrowth and so forth, and because it's on a mountain slope, you can probably hide in any crevice or corner or crack or under any trees or bushes and stay hidden for quite some period of time.
As the massive manhunt gets underway, authorities searching the second victim's car find a gun.
The police officers called the serial numbers into our office and they ran them on the national database.
Bennett learns that the gun was stolen in a cottage robbery in Ontario by a man wanted on a countrywide murder warrant. His name is David Snow.
I get a call from British Columbia, and I think it's your fellow they're looking for. Oh, I was totally shocked.
You're serious?
Ontario police can only hope that BC authorities will do what they could not: find and capture their killer. Concerns about a psychopath loose in the park are soon compounded when authorities learn that a marathon is taking place.
We were worried that he would grab another victim.
As night falls, the manhunt becomes much more difficult, but failure is not an option.
We had one of the greatest threats to the community that the community has seen in a long time.
And for a local restaurant owner, it's a threat that's all too real. After abducting and assaulting 2 women in Vancouver, David Snow is being hunted by police in Mount Seymour Provincial Park. They don't know he's managed to flee the area and choose another victim at a secluded restaurant. Snow forces the woman to the back of the building, but he's unaware that she was able to trigger the restaurant's silent alarm. With most law enforcement resources diverted to Mount Seymour, it falls on Constable Peter Cross and his partner John Westlock to respond.
We were doing what you would call standard routine police calls. We got 2 calls for alarms. One was in Edgemont Village, and the second alarm was for the Bridge House restaurant. To this day, I have no idea why I chose the Bridge House, because we were actually driving by the other alarm to get to the Bridge House alarm.
Nothing appears out of place upon their arrival, and they can't hear the victim. Constable Cross finally arrives at the back of the building.
Freeze! And that's when he starts running.
In one fell swoop, Cross brings to an end Snow's deadly rampage.
Now go back to the woman back there. She needs help.
I said, "You're the fella we're looking for, aren't you?" And he said, "Yeah, I think so."
You're gonna be okay. Can you hear
hear me?
Snow's victim is alive, if just barely.
We were told by the hospital staff that she was 30 to 45 seconds away from dying. To come across someone that is in the process of being killed is extremely rare. To have the ability to stop it and have the ability to catch the guy doing it, I think is, yeah, it's one of those moments in time that, yeah, you're pretty proud of it when you're done.
Snow first stands trial in British Columbia.
We were able to secure convictions against David Snow for several counts of abduction, forcible confinement, sexual assault, and aggravated assault.
After being sentenced, he's returned to Ontario to stand trial for the Blackburn homicides.
A DNA sample is obtained from him, and it's subsequently matched to the blood in the Blackburn car.
Police see that years of neglect have left Snow's gums prone to bleeding. Poor hygiene caused him to leave key evidence behind.
On top of all the circumstantial evidence that we had, that was the bonus to show that there was David Snow's blood in the deceased car. That was irrefutable.
David Snow is convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The body of Carolyn Case is eventually recovered, but for lack of evidence, he's never charged with her slaying.
I don't believe that there's any redeeming merit in David Snow whatsoever. He's not an individual that could come back into the community.
The viciousness that he displayed, his ruthlessness, I find to be just chilling.
I have no idea what drove him. The psychiatrists will spend years studying as to what prompted him to this behavior.
I would drive him home. 10 or 11 o'clock at night, the 2 of us on the pitch black dirt roads. I never thought twice about it.
Declared a dangerous offender, David Snow will spend the rest of his life behind bars.